Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Now, this is a bit more of a serious video, and I'm really excited to share my thoughts today. So, of course, today is a very important day. It's Holocaust Remembrance Day. Now, I don't need to explain what this is, but I need to explain the importance, and I also need to explain my story behind this, because growing up, I didn't feel so connected because how education was taught. And it's only been the last decade, half decade, last 5 years, that I've really spent the time researching. And I believe there is so much more research and so much more, education to be taught. Now, this isn't something that I publicly speak on. This is quite obviously a sensitive topic, but at the same time, I have a responsibility as someone who creates content online to share a really important message, because I know there are people who are still learning, who have never heard about this, and so on. So I'm going to go through my points. And you know what? I was like, let me share my notes, because I never seen a YouTube video where I was like, let's share my notes. So I like this format. Again, if you enjoy this format, make sure to subscribe. There's going to be a lot more high quality content down the line. But right now, I just want to get long form content so we can just chat and chill on this YouTube. Important topics, fitness topics, and variety of other topics. So what's my challenge? So I did my challenge walking from Manchester to London over 5 full days and then a morning on a Friday. That was 200 miles. And I did that to raise awareness and funds for Yad Vashem UK Foundation. The main purpose of that challenge was to create content that was to teach and educate, and for me to learn. Because prior to that challenge, for a few weeks, I decided to do that challenge with 2 weeks training. For that 2 weeks, and after that and during the challenge, I learned about all the athletes that passed during this time. And you read some amazing stories. That some of the stories I heard felt like a story, like a non-real story, but it was a story. And there's one person that I can't remember his surname. It was Victor. He was a champion. It was a boxing champion. And wow, this is a powerful story. I want to make sure I say it right. I didn't do research on this story, but it's a really beautiful story. So I remember he was put into a camp, and he had to fight all these people. And these people were double the size of him. And basically whoever loses gets killed. And I think he won many, many fights. And it's like a story you hear that it could be from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. This is recent, of course. So I remember I think he passed on a march, unfortunately. Very sad story, but it was a very inspiring thing to hear and read, and like, wow. And he has such a good talent. So I walked from Manchester to London, and it was very interesting to listen to talk to people on the way, and not many people really knew the knowledge about what events happened here, which was really sad. And so when I posted about it online, everyone was like, oh yeah, I know what happened. Why are you posting about this? Like, everyone knows. That's not true. There's a lot of people who don't know about this, and it needs to be educated to people. So I'm pretty sure most people here may be coming from Instagram. So you've seen, you know. But the reason why we need to continue posting is because there's so many who don't. And so me, growing up as a kid, this type of topic, you're a child, you're a young teenager, this just goes over your head. And for myself, and I think everyone's very, very different, but for myself, I really wasn't fussed, because the talks were hours long. I was tired. Like, I'm not using my dyslexia as an excuse, but like, I just wanted to do other things. It wasn't interesting for me to learn about, because I didn't realize how important it was for me. So I felt distant. I remember when I went on a trip to Poland, it was great, but this was years ago. It was just, I was too young. I think it was important for me to go, but I'm happy I went on that, because I think now when I go on the next trip, it will be a lot more meaningful. And I think when you're young and you're going on a school trip, you're going on a school trip with friends, more than actually the reason behind it. And of course, there were moments that were very emotional, But I think it's important to go back and remind yourself of doing this. So I'm going to be going back to Poland over this next period. So it was really interesting to kind of me discover my more connection to this over the last 5 years, which has been very meaningful. So how do we teach to the younger generation? The truth is, I don't have the answers, but I can say what's done really, really well and what has been meaningful and impactful. And we all know someone called Dov Foreman, whose great-grandmother, I think, was a survivor. And their story is so inspiring. They've reached so many followers on TikTok. They've impacted millions of people around the world and taught people millions around the world. That is the way forward of utilizing current, not trends, but utilizing current, trends of the world, social media, and incorporating those things together. Because for me and the younger generation, where all our life now is on social media and on our phones, if a young teenager goes to a Remembrance Day and they hear someone speak for an hour, how many of them are actually going to take it in, and how many of them thinking, how long's left, So when do we need to continue making this change and ensuring that the young generation can really understand what's happened? So what can you do? Truth is, I'm not going to tell you, I will tell you, but I don't expect any of you to implement this and implement. This is your decision. I'm only here to share my thoughts. At the end of the day, it comes down to you to make your decision. And maybe listening to this video is great because you're more mindful towards this topic. So attend any events, maybe read or watch documents, visit a museum and memorials. There are so many around the world, which is really important. So just showing up, even if the museum's like 10 minutes, like walking around, or an hour, just showing up, being present, share a donation, whatever that may be. Those things matter massively. And then, share a story. That's obviously optional. Some people don't even have Instagram, then that may not apply for you. It's just really sharing these experiences and taking these small actions just like this, which makes a huge difference. So this was kind of like my experience in regarding to this. I think I'm just at the start of my journey, really, and learning more, educating more. There's so much more to learn. And I did a post on Instagram on this day, and I mentioned there's so much information and it can get really overwhelming. And sometimes that overwhelming feel is not the best way, because then you just don't want to do anything. But it's about taking small step by step. And if you've watched one video, you've watched this video, you've read one post, you've watched this video, that could be a great way. And then slowly, when we have all these events throughout the year, you do a bit there, bit there, bit there, bit there. You're in Berlin. You're in DC. You go, pretty, let me go to this museum, and try and make it a priority to go. Over time, you learn more. So it's just, we have to think, I always relate this to a fitness journey, and I don't want to think anything to fitness journey, but it's all about consistency. Like forcing yourself to learn is, for this topic, very important. But at the same time, we want to make sure we can be consistent and not just learn for 3 months and never didn't do nothing again for the rest of your life. But okay, cool. How can you slowly make more progressions, learn a bit more, show more support, donate more over time? And eventually, I think that's what we're going to have to try and teach the younger generation, because it's a massive challenge. And what I'm seeing is all these amazing posts. These amazing posts with big football clubs, news pages supporting, and not many people are commenting. It's not the young Jewish people commenting. One, because there's a problem with fear to show your Jewish pride on social media. But it's a great post, but the engagement's not so much on these pages which aren't Jewish related. And that what makes it really interesting to me to see is that I am one of the only few people posting, like commenting on a post where there's like such a big news outlet. If you and we want to see more younger people reading this, commenting, saying, "Wow, I didn't know this stuff," and we need to find that gap. We need to find that connection. And right now, I don't have any answer, but I do think being more on social media, I think there are plenty of people who are doing really well of educating the younger generation, but we need to do more and more and more so that everyone on TikTok, everyone on Instagram is fully aware, because there's still many people on these platforms and many people in the world who have no clue this existed, and that is scary. Anyway, there's not really, you can't really finish on a positive note here. Of course, it's just a time to remember and show respect. So let's do that together after this video.